This weekend is another Commoner Crawl event, which I'm really looking forward to because it gives me a chance to see the larger Commoner meta picture after heavy hitters. So what I want to do today is talk about the Commoner meta changes, both going into and after heavy hitters, and what I'm expecting to see this weekend.
A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando.
Hey there, my flesh and blood friends. Welcome back to Dice Commando and Go Again, a fabulous cast. Thanks for checking in for another installment of Dice Commando. That's right, our Commoner format series here on the channel. You notice I've been doing a little bit of rebranding right below me. I've actually got the logo, and then I'm trying out this new backdrop. I've always used the titanium bauble as kind of the generic backdrop for my Commoner stuff. I'm not loving this because there's an optical illusion going on. Believe it or not, the ball is the center, right? The center of the ball is actually the center of this, but because I'm over here, it makes it look off center. Measure it, it's the center. Kind of a fun fact. Anyway, let me know if you love it, if you hate it. Like I said, I'm trying a few things. But all of that aside, today I want to do kind of a Commoner format rundown. There's been, obviously we had the BNR now. We had that in December, and then we rolled into, for me, it was the Commoner event in Queenstown. And then this weekend, the Commoner Crawl event that's coming up here in Portland, Oregon, will be my first chance to really, I've played some Commoner games, been playing around with it, but this is my first chance to really get it on the table in a, community competitive environment. And I think that's what I'm comfortable calling our Commoner Crawl events, is community competitive. All right. So first off, if you are in the area, Commoner Crawl, February 25th. So this Sunday, we are back at Von Ebert out at Glendevere, the golf course. A little too cold to get some rounds in before or after right now, and I think you'd have to probably wear your, we call them duck boots, but they're rubber duckies. It's a kind of like a short rubber boot anyway, and you're neither here nor there, but would not be good for golf, although your ball probably wouldn't go far past because it'd probably bury itself in the grass. But either way, noon, we'll see you there. The tournament actually starts at 1 o'clock, but you want to get there a little early and have some fun and socialize. So this weekend, that'll be awesome. All right, now moving into, like I blow that off so fast. No, I'm super excited. I'm just trying to get into the video because there's a lot to talk about. So what I want to do is I actually want to go back and talk, because we haven't done it here. We haven't really talked about changes of the impacts, I should say, of the BNR, right? So when the BNR happened in December, two things happened. We had the banning of Amulet of Ice and the banning of stubby hammerers, okay? So what I have across the screen right now is what I believe, again, like I said, trying some fun graphics and stuff, right? But this is what I believe the impacts to the meta were from those changes. Obviously, stubby hammers was huge to Fi. Okay, Fi was one of the leaders of the format. I think he takes a pretty significant hit. He's still playable. You can still, I think, do the rupture line with him. But by and large, he took a pretty significant hit. Chane also took a hit from that, but not as much. And actually, I'll link the video we did, I think it was last week or the week before, of a Chane build with no stubbies, right, using gauntlets instead, and it really doesn't change the way he plays. It just kind of deramps his pop-off turn. So I don't think he took as much. And then Icelander, I'm trying to draw the arrows to scale, at least comparatively. Did not take as much of a hit as Fi, but she did drop off a bit. And I think losing Amulet of Ice makes her much more susceptible to Ira, right? That's who I believe is the current Blitz leader, or I should say before going into heavy hitters, and we'll talk about the impact of heavy hitters here in a second, right? So of that, Ira's worst matchup, by and large, was Icelander, okay? And Bravo, so Ira goes way up. With Icelander taking the hit, Ira goes way up. The reason I have Bravo dropping a little bit is because Bravo does not do super well into Ira, and he does very well into Icelander. So when you have those two effects, Ira going up, because right when his worst matchup, when a negative matchup gets better or worse for him, I suppose, which side of the fence you're on, right? So Ira better, Icelander worse, and when the reverse is true for Bravo, I think Bravo drops a bit, and then I think Kassai pops a little. Primarily because Kassai's worst matchup, by and large, easy, not by and large, easy, her worst matchup was Icelander, right? So again, when you see Icelander drop a little bit, I think we also see a pop on Kassai as well. Is that enough to bring Kassai into top tier in Commoner? I don't know, but she's right on the edge. And then when you add in some of the new toys, I think that's pretty significant. Okay, so that's where I see it now. I believe that it's probably in the top tier is very certainly. I think Icelander's still top tier. I still believe that, but it's very clearly Ira on top of the pyramid, with Bravo and Icelander right below her, and then you've got this larger. And that, again, I think just calling it a pyramid is very fair. You've kind of got, I think you've got Ira at the top, you've got a couple right below her, and then you have a whole field of folks that it's a very like fat pyramid. It gets fat very quick because tier 1.5 in Commoner is anybody's game. So now we move into heavy hitters. So if you are a brute, a guardian, or a warrior, oh, did you get some toys, right? Oh, did you get some toys? By and large, I don't think the rest of the field really changed. I don't see many cards coming out of that, if any. Let me know in the comments if there's some cards from like the generic pool that you think are for not those three classes. But I think the other classes remain completely unchanged, right? In Commoner, I'm saying in Commoner, okay? So Bravo takes an absolute jump in this field, or in this set, excuse me. Both Concuss, Command Respect to a lesser extent. It's huge, right? Concuss alone is huge. He also picked up another 4-popper blue, 4-cost 6 popper, popper 6. He picked that up in Thunk. So he's in very good spot. Dorinthea, with the prevalence of the agility token, and to a lesser extent the Vigor token, Dorinthea has completely popped out of what I would consider to have been tier 3 or tier C or whatever you want to call it. I think she's a solid like tier 1.5 contender now because she's got a lot of threats. Dorinthea has always been very good. The Dawnblade can still get counters, but now that she has more reliable ways of getting the go again, and in some cases that go again is free because of the agility setup, Dorinthea I think is very scary. Not a top tier hero, but I think there's a lot of folks who do not want to sit down against a Dorinthea who didn't used to have to worry about that. We also have Kassai. Kassai, obviously, as I mentioned, had kind of taken a step up just because of the meta changes. But Kassai also picked up some stuff she did not pick up as much as Dorinthea. Now, I want to put into context this image here. This image is the comparisons, right? It doesn't mean that Bravo goes the best, and right, this is not a tier list in of itself. This is a comparative change ranking. Okay, Bravo went way up. Dorinthea went up, but not as much as Bravo, in my opinion. Kassai went up, but not as much as Dorinthea. But remember, Kassai was already ahead. Okay, then we move on to the last one there, our boy Rhinar. I am very, very hot on a club-based Rhinar deck. There's a lot of really cool things you can do, especially with Bonebreaker Bellow. So you have Bonebreaker Bellow, you have Madcap Charger, you have the, I think it's Swing Fist Think Later, which is kind of like a bad Madcap Charger. It's yellow. You have and then you have Lead with Power, and you have all sorts of ways that in a club-based Rhinar deck can pretty consistently swing 7 and 10 with sometimes 2-card hands. It's very, very, very good. Very good. And if you get a 3-card hand, that's when you're starting to do Intimidate, and then they have to make bad decisions. I wouldn't be surprised. This is who I am very much leaning this week into playing Rhinar and trying him out, because I really want to see, I want the learning experience. I want to see where it fits. So that's very much where I'm leaning. I really think there's something there. So those are the biggest changes I see to the previous meta with the heavy hitters cards. All right, so now let's move in and let's talk about the 5 new heroes we got, because we just spoke to Rhinar. Let's talk about the new 5 heroes that we got in heavy hitters and where I think they stand. So I've got some buddies who are very convinced, very, very convinced that Olympia is the bee's knees with Decimator Great Axe. So we will see how that is not an angle I'm taking this weekend. We'll see. They're very convinced that it's going to be good. I have no reason to doubt them, and I'm very excited to see it. So let's put a pin on Olympia, and we'll come back afterwards and give a recap on that. Remember, we always do the recap of the top 4 lists. Maybe one will be in there. You never know. Talking about Kayo, I have a spicy no-miss Kayo build. That said, he's missing. There's some key rares that I think he needs. He can still play Agile Wind-Up, Mighty Wind-Up. He still has those. I do think you play Ball Breaker with him in Commoner because you're not going to get like 3 wide turns as often because you don't have all the stuff. So I think you play Ball Breaker with him and you're just trying to Wild Ride, or you've got, something and then Bare Fangs. You get it, right? There's other options there. Also, like you can play Critical Strike and stuff like that because Critical Strike's a 1/5 that is a 6. So yeah, I said that right. 1/5 that's a 6. And that can kind of help, if you can Wild Ride into like a 1/5. I think that's decent. So you can, like I said, I've got a spicy no-miss KO deck that we'll see here in a couple weeks. But I don't think this is as good because if you're looking at just like a pure aggro, I think he's more susceptible. The question with him is, can he match Dash's aggro without... Is he better than Dash? I mean, that's the question I'm asking, essentially. And I don't think he is, because with the self-mill, I don't think he can match Dash's power output, and I still think he's susceptible to fatigue. So, because again, you lose so much of the top end value in Commoner, but would be more than happy to be wrong on Kayo. Now, for Kassai in the middle, she's interesting and she has her own play style. The problem statement for new Kassai is just that old Kassai is also legal, and when I look at the two together, they're functionally trying to do the same thing without the big cards, right? So you can't raise an army. I just think you play OG Kassai. So I'm not saying that new Kassai is bad. I'm not saying she's unplayable, but I think that old Kassai is better. And since they're so similar in the way they play, even picked up the new hood and stuff like that, I think you just go with old Kassai. At least that's where my head is right now. That's where I'm at right now. Now, Victor and Betsy, I'll talk about them together. They're obviously trying to do different things. But I guess I won't talk about them together. One of Victor's problems when you look at him again is the rarity on some of the like key cards he wants to include. The mill thing is very interesting in this format because, there are heroes out there that, fatigue's a way to win. But if you really think about it, right, Oldhim has been legal in Commoner, and Oldhim is not as good as Bravo. So the question is Victor as good as Oldhim? Maybe. I mean, he's trying to do different things, but he doesn't have a lot of those big things, right? What he's trying to do is, throw those 9s, throw those 10s, and then do the clashes, and he doesn't have all his clash cards. So I'm just not convinced that he's as good. He's different than Oldhim. So fine, maybe they're equal, but Bravo's better than Oldhim, right? I mean, that's undeniable in terms of the results. And I think Goldman here probably fits into that same bucket. And that's, I think, the same problem at least for now, that Betsy has. I mean, the nice thing about Betsy, she's got the chapeau, which is really nice to be able to... I mean, it's just extra health that Bravo doesn't have, right? Bravo's got the helm. She sits down with a 2 more, block, but you know what I mean, right? An extra 2 hit points effectively with her chapeau, being able to 2 in 1. You can do the big bops and the bigger than bigs, and she can do her thing. And it's cool. It is, right? But again, you have to ask yourself, is she better than Bravo in the limited format without some of her big tricks? I mean, I think she's... Overall, I really enjoyed playing her in Limited. I really did. But she's been letting me down. I've been kind of underwhelmed with her in Constructed, and I think the data shows that, right? If you look at Road to Nationals and stuff like that this last weekend, I think the data's there on that. So it really hits down to, is she better than Bravo in a format where Bravo is easily like a, tier 1.1, 1.001 hero, right? I think that's tough. And that's a lot to ask of heroes. So anyway, that's where I see the new 5. I wouldn't be surprised if I see some KOs this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised. I know I'm going to see some Olympias this weekend, so I'm looking forward to seeing the build and seeing how that works out. But I do think Rhinar, so I'll go back to the previous one, right? I'm pretty stoked to see these heroes this weekend and how they perform. We've got some Kassai loyalists. who I'm not talking about here is Dash. I mean, we talked about her a bit already. The Mechanologists are really good. I kind of would like to see... Most people in our area have skewed away from the Mechanologist because they fatigue so easy. But the Dash Hyper Boost build got some really cool tricks in Dusk Till Dawn, specifically like recharge and stuff like that. You're able to come in for quite a bit. So I'm hoping we get to see some of those this weekend as well. I'm pretty sure I can still fatigue them out, though, and I think that's why most people aren't running them. But again, if the meta itself is switching to be a little more aggro, then we could definitely see some dashes do things. So anyway, that is my take overall. You've been sitting here. Let me know the new graphics. You enjoy that? Is it worth it? Take some time to put them together. So if it's not adding value, no worries. Anyway, let me know. Just make sure you're leaving a comment and stuff below. Let me know what you think about the meta, where you think it's going to go, what decks you're working on right now. Let me know in the comments below, folks. If nothing else, go Commando.